Faye, hadn't fulfilled my say. Are you sure you want to abort this child? Dr. Sunny, who was in charge of my surgery, was my best friend from university. Even at the last second, she still couldn't understand why I was so determined to get rid of the child in my womb. My husband, Leo, is a dentist. He is gentle and refined, and has an outstanding appearance. Since university, he has been the heartthrob of the medical school. I pursued him for 5 years before I finally won his heart. We got married shortly after dating for less than half a year. Since we got married, he has been obedient to me and doted on me. I even quit my original job for him and was willing to be a housewife. After marriage, he handed over his salary card to me. He planted my favorite roses all over the backyard of our house. He would buy me gifts every month. Once, I casually mentioned that I wanted to eat fried chicken in the middle of the night, and he actually ran several blocks to buy it and bring it to me in person. There is no mistress or infidelity in our story. In the past 3 years, he has never done anything to betray me. I love him, from love at first sight to growing affection over time, and my love has never changed. Those who didn't think highly of my relationship with Leo in university also began to envy our marriage. In the eyes of everyone, we are a happy model couple. But today, I flew from Shanghai to Chengdu on the pretext of traveling, all for the purpose of quietly aborting the child of the man I love the most. The bright lights of the operating table were so dazzling that I couldn't open my eyes. I bit my lip and smiled, nodding affirmatively. Yes. Give me general anesthesia. Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Is there someone else outside for Leo? This was the last sentence I heard before losing consciousness. But my marriage with Leo is not that simple. Thinking of his creepy secret, I feel my scalp go numb and my whole body tremble. On the day I returned to Shanghai, Leo took half a day off to pick me up and take me home. Seeing that I didn't look well, he thought I wasn't used to the food in Chengdu. He went to the supermarket and bought half a chicken, and personally stewed chicken soup with Chinese wolf berries for me, saying that he would give me a good tonic. The man in front of me was wearing a pair of very elegant gold-rimmed glasses. His facial features were perfect. His delicate cuffs were slightly rolled up. The way he brought the chicken soup in front of me was as heart-stirring as when I first saw him in university. I looked at him with a smile. But the moment his hand touched my finger, I instinctively shrank back. He reached out and touched my forehead, and his beautiful eyebrows knitted together. Faye, having fulfilled my absai. Are you not feeling well? No. Maybe it's too hot in Chengdu, and I haven't recovered yet. I specifically told Sunny not to tell anyone about my abortion. Of course, including Leo. I'm sure Sunny won't talk too much. I lit an aromatherapy candle in the room. Take a hot bath later and have a good sleep. He is always so considerate and takes care of me just right. Okay. I smiled. And after a pause, I added, by the way, Luna is back in the country. I've made an appointment with her to have dinner together tomorrow. When Luna was mentioned, a trace of disgust flashed across his face. Why are you still meeting her? Luna was my best friend in university. During our university days, we were both crazy about Leo. On the day Leo agreed to be with me, Luna grabbed my hair and dragged me onto the street. She slapped me more than a dozen times, pointed at my hand and called me a slut. She even broke one of my fingers on my right hand, which ended my career as a doctor. Leo hates her to the core, and so do I. But at this moment, I stared at my right hand that could no longer hold a scalpel, smiled, and said calmly, wasn't she also expelled from the medical school and sent to prison back then? She has received the punishment she deserved. Moreover, she has stomach cancer. In the advanced stage. It's really pitiful. I heard that her greatest wish before she dies is to see you one more time. Leo was stunned for a moment. When he heard the words stomach cancer, a strange look flashed in his eyes. The meeting with Luna was more peaceful than I had imagined. Luna no longer had her former arrogance. With a pale face, she bowed deeply to me several times and kept apologizing to me, saying that she was sorry for me back then. I smiled and didn't say anything. After treating her to a meal, I invited her and several old classmates to a Kate Edie to sing. After drinking a few rounds, Luna was a bit drugged and kept talking to Leo. It was obvious to everyone that Luna still had feelings for Leo. I dismissed the old classmates and deliberately left a private space for Luna and Leo. My friend Sue pointed at my nose and scolded me furiously. "Faye, are you stupid? Look at Luna's slutty appearance. Just like she was back then. Even if you feel sorry for her because she has cancer and won't live for more than half a year, you can't just hand over your husband to her, can you? I'm just tired and want to go home and rest early. I've never been a saint. I wouldn't have given Leo away back then. And I definitely won't now. If Leo really gets involved with her, I wonder if you'll regret it." No, he won't. I've said it before. There is no infidelity or mistress in my story with Leo. But I did create an opportunity for Leo and Luna. That night, Leo didn't come back until 12 o'clock at night. After taking a shower, he lay on the bed, buried his head in my neck, and gently explained to me, "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Luna drank too much and wouldn't let go of me. I sent her home and then came back. We didn't do anything. Okay." I lay in the corner with my back to him. And he turned over and kissed me. He pulled off my clothes and wanted to be intimate with me. In the 3 years of our marriage, I have never refused him in such matters. But I really couldn't cooperate with him so soon after the surgery. So I used my physical discomfort as an excuse to avoid it. He was a bit surprised. But seeing that I really didn't look well, he didn't ask any more questions. He hugged me and told me to go to sleep early. I stared at the delicate and charming roses in the garden and outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. And suddenly asked in a hoarse voice, Leo, the climate in Shanghai isn't good. Why can you always grow such beautiful roses?" The man who was holding me was obviously stunned for a moment. I couldn't see his emotions in the dark, but his gentle voice was still deep and pleasant. "The roses are planted for you, so of course I can grow them well." What touching words of love. Unfortunately, having fulfilled at that moment, I only felt it was ironic. This was the last chance I gave Leo. Obviously, having fulfilled my obsession, he didn't cherish it. I didn't sleep soundly tonight. I had a very long dream. At the end of the dream was the radiant Leo from our university days. The day he agreed to be with me. We had just graduated. I sat on the back seat of his bicycle, hugged him tightly in his white shirt, and asked with joy on my face, "Leo, there were so many people chasing you in university. Why did you choose me?" Although I have an okay appearance and figure, I really felt like I was punching above my weight when it came to being with the campus heartthrob. He stopped the bike and looked at me seriously, with tenderness in his eyes. "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Your teeth are really beautiful. If one day you unfortunately pass away, can I keep your teeth? I will clean them, tie a bow on them, spray perfume on them, and put them in a beautiful glass bottle to keep them forever and look at them and miss you." I was so touched at that time. I thought these were the most beautiful words of love spoken by a dentist. But now, when I dream of it again, I only feel a chill down my spine, my whole body trembling, and I break out in a cold sweat. When I woke up, it was already getting light. The room was empty, and Leo had already gone to the hospital. He loves his job very much. He goes to work early and comes back late every day and is very dedicated. I once thought that he was the best dentist in the world. I smiled absently, wiped the cold sweat off my head, put on a coat, and went to the garden to help him water the roses in the garden. The weather was very nice today. I put on an apron and took out a small shovel, ready to loosen the soil for these beautiful roses. Leo felt sorry for me and never let me touch the soil. But he has been working overtime a lot recently and didn't have time to take care of it. The soil was a bit barren, and I wanted to help him. I don't know if it was because I didn't sleep well last night or the sun was too dazzling, but I didn't control the force of shoveling the soil well. I inserted the shovel to deep and hit the rose stem. These were the roses that Leo cherished the most. I was so scared that I quickly bent down to fix it. The moment the shovel dug into the soil, I was startled. There seemed to be something else in the soil. I picked up the small shovel and shoveled the soil away bit by bit. When I saw clearly what was buried under the roses, I let out a scream, and the shovel fell heavily to the ground, under the delicate and charming roses. There were rows of neatly arranged dead people's teeth buried. These teeth were neatly arranged here. Some of them had turned color and dried up due to the passage of time. Some still had scarlet bloodstains on them, which should have been extracted not long ago. Some had the gum attached. And some were just a single tooth. No matter which kind they were all reminding me that my previous suspicion of Leo was not groundless. But I still shook my head desperately, unable to believe that this was true. Leo. Such a gentle and kind man. How could he? No, there must be some misunderstanding. There must be. The first time I noticed something was wrong with Leo was half a year ago. At that time, my cousin Sharon from the countryside was diagnosed with uterine cancer and came to Shanghai for treatment. She didn't have many relatives in Shanghai, so I brought her to my home. Before she started chemotherapy, I let her stay in my house and hired an Annie to take care of her. I was worried that Leo would mind, and I found several excuses to explain to Leo. To my surprise, not only did he not mind, but he also told Sharon to stay well and took good care of her. Sharon always praised me for marrying a good husband. Leo was really nice at that time. The chemotherapy in the hospital made Sharon suffer a lot. He asked the nanny to cook all kinds of delicious food for her. Whenever he had time, he asked me to pick Sharon out of the hospital to relax. In his spare time, he often went to the ward to chat with Sharon. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my outshine, Sharon's cancer cells spread very quickly. After 3 months of treatment, Sharon finally couldn't bear the pain of chemotherapy and chose to give up. The doctor said she had at most half a year left and told her to spend the remaining days well. Leo was also there on the day we sent Sharon back to the countryside. Sharon and her husband held Leo's hand and kept thanking him. The people in the countryside looked at me with envy, saying that I was so lucky to have married such a good husband. We stayed in the countryside for one night and then returned to Shanghai. But a week later, Sharon's husband called and said that Sharon was dead. She committed suicide and died peacefully. I was terrified, but the person on the other end of the phone said that cancer had tortured Sharon so much that it was normal for her to commit suicide as she couldn't bear it anymore. It was better to die decently now than to die in pain half a year later. But I clearly remembered that on the day Sharon was discharged from the hospital, she held my hand and told me that she wanted to make good use of these 6 months to take her little daughter on a trip, and make up for all the motherly love she had owed her daughter in the second and half of her life. When she said these words, her eyes were clearly filled with longing and hope. How could such a person suddenly commit suicide? I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until the day of Sharon's burial that I went back to the countryside and accidentally heard the conversation between her husband and her mother. Sharon's mother's eyes were red from crying, and she said in a rural dialect with a strong accent, "Dawn, tell me the truth. Did Sharon really commit suicide?" "Mom, Sharon died from taking sleeping pills. If it wasn't suicide, what else could it be? But I just cleaned her body, and I found that she was missing one tooth. My Sharon always had very good teeth. How could she suddenly be missing one tooth after death? Maybe it fell out during chemotherapy." "Mom, don't think too much. Even if Sharon didn't die now, she wouldn't have lived for more than half a year. No one would kill her. I think you've just watched too many TV dramas." All right. Country people don't have much education. Even if they noticed something was wrong, they didn't think deeply about it and hurriedly buried Sharon. But as an educated person, I know very well that with the extent of Sharon's chemotherapy, her teeth wouldn't fall out. Moreover, Sharon had lived in my house for so long, and she always had good teeth. The sudden loss of one tooth after her definitely indicated that there was a problem. I don't know if it's a woman's sixth sense, but I always feel that Sharon didn't commit suicide, and my husband, Leo, seems to be overly concerned about Sharon, who had cancer. I vaguely remembered that when we moved 3 years ago, I saw a medical booklet in Leo's luggage. It recorded the list of cancer patients in Shanghai in recent years. I remember that at that time, I felt strange and asked him about it. He said that these cancer patients were in so much pain before they died, and as a doctor, he wanted to visit them often to help relieve some of their pain. I was so touched when I heard that. I thought the man in front of me was so kind and gentle. But now that I think about it, it doesn't seem to be the case. While Leo was working the night shift, I rummaged through the boxes and cabinets and found that booklet. I picked up my phone and dialed the contact numbers on the list. Hello. Is this patient Dawn? How is she doing now? Dawn committed suicide 3 years ago. Hello. Is this Shang King King? She? Are you crazy? Zhang King King died from taking sleeping pills 2 years ago. Don't call again. Hello. How is patient Li Kai doing now? My father died half a year ago. He didn't even make it to the final stage of cancer. Huh. Leo had circled 5 or 6 names on that list. I kept calling. And all these patients had passed away. And they all committed suicide. Which was very similar to Sharon's situation. I clenched my phone tightly. Looking at the wedding photo on the table showing our love, I felt a tingling sensation on my scalp and started to break out in cold sweat. Leo was off work today. When I woke up in the morning, he had already gotten up and was loosening the soil for the roses in the garden. I had turned over the soil last night, and I felt a little guilty. I quickly walked into the garden, picked up the tools on the ground, and pretended to be calm as I said, "Honey, it's not easy for you to have a day off. Don't tire yourself out. Let me do it. These roses are my treasures. Of course. I have to take care of them myself." Leo gently wiped the rose leaves. And suddenly he looked up at me and smiled. "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Do you like the roses I planted for you?" "Of course I do. Women all like flowers. Especially roses." I perfunctorily replied and wanted to bend down to shovel the soil. Leo suddenly grabbed my hand and said sternly, "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. I remember I told you not to touch this soil. When I'm not here. You just need to water the flowers for me." I was so scared that my body shook. I quickly let go of the shovel. "Sorry. Honey. I forgot. Have you touched this soil?" The man approached me, and his sharp gaze carried a suffocating interrogation. My fingers trembled, and I felt extremely guilty. No. You know I have mysophobia and don't like to touch these dirty things." "Well, a girl's fingers are precious. And indeed she shouldn't touch these things." Leo stared at me for a while. Suddenly, he took my hand and pulled me to sit down on the bench. "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. How are you feeling recently? Is there any sign of pregnancy? We've been married for 3 years. And Leo's family has been urging us to have a baby. Before, Leo always politely declined. But in the past 6 months, I don't know what happened. And he suddenly really wanted me to have a baby for him. Thinking of that operation, I felt even more guilty. Afraid that he would notice something was wrong. I held his hand back and pretended to be calm as I comforted him. "Honey, we can't rush having a baby. Let's take our time. There's still plenty of time. And we will definitely get pregnant eventually." "Yeah. You're too thin. You need to eat some delicious food to build up your body." Leo suddenly stood up, took out a bag of something with a strange packaging from the kitchen, and handed it to me. "Faye, this is a tonic I specially bought for you. Drink it. It will help you get pregnant." I took it with slightly trembling fingertips. Through the transparent packaging bag, I saw some dark red medicinal liquid, which looked rather unappetizing. "Honey. What is this?" "It's a tonic. Drink it quickly. Your husband wouldn't harm you. Would he?" He reached out and gently rubbed my head, smiling. Although the words were very gentle, I felt a tingling sensation on my scalp when I heard them. But in order not to make him suspicious, I still showed a smile, opened the packaging bag, and drank the bag of medicinal liquid mouthful by mouthful. The medicinal liquid tasted very strange. And it made me feel so nauseous that I couldn't eat anything for the whole day. In the evening, Leo said he was going out to have dinner with a friend, so he changed into a suit and went out. I didn't have an appetite after drinking that medicinal liquid. I just ate a few bites of bread and then lay on the bed and scrolled through my phone. Unexpectedly, I actually scrolled across Luna's WeChat moments. She took a photo of having a candlelit dinner in a high-end restaurant in Shanghai and captioned it, "Having dinner with the person you like is really enjoyable." Although the person opposite wasn't captured in the photo, the tie that showed a corner of it looked very familiar. I zoomed in and recognized it at a glance. The person opposite was Leo. And that tie was the one I bought for him in a duty-free shop when I went on a trip to Hainan last year. I didn't expect that the relationship between him and Luna had progressed so quickly. I remember that he used to dislike Luna very much. Every time he mentioned Luna, he was full of disgust. What's going on now? Just because Luna has gastric cancer. His attitude towards Luna has done a complete 180-degree turn? I lay on the bed holding my phone. Thinking about all the things that had happened during this period, I secretly made up my mind to complete the plan I had before. Because of what happened to Sharon, I was a bit on guard against Leo. So when I learned that Luna had cancer and returned to China, I deliberately invited her to a dinner and told Leo about it. Actually, at that time, I just wanted to use Luna as a bait to test Leo. I didn't expect things to develop to this extent. Leo is even more terrifying than I imagined. I touched my flat belly and suddenly thought that the decision to abort the baby in my belly at that time was the right choice. I can't have a baby for a devil. As for Luna, I hate her. She destroyed my life. If I have to choose someone to be the victim of this marriage, I will definitely choose her. What's more, she deserves everything that's happening to her. On the 23rd of every month, Leo will take me back to the old house of the Leo family for dinner. The Leo family is a family of doctors. 3 generations of them, grandparents, parents, and children, are all doctors. And the family is in good financial condition. The old house of the Leo family is located in a somewhat old alley in the old urban area Shanghai. Although the house is very old, it's quite large. Leo's mother passed away when Leo was 13 years old, and Leo's father lives here alone. When we just got married, I suggested that Leo's father move to our new home and live with us. And it seems that the father and son of the Leo family are quite attached to this old house. After all these years, they have no intention of moving at all. I got out of the car, carried the fruits and vegetables, and walked into the kitchen. I busied myself in the kitchen together with the nanny. Leo accompanied his father to play chess in the living room. And the atmosphere was quite nice. Faye, petting fulfilled my obsession. You're really working hard. Every time you come, you make so many delicious dishes. When the food was served on the table, Leo helped his father sit down. Leo's father looked at me with a rather gratified expression. But then he changed the subject and sighed. It's just that after being married for so long, there's still no sign of pregnancy. It would be great if you could give birth to a grandson for our Leo family as soon as possible. Dad, stop urging. Faye and I are trying to have a baby. Leo held my hand and smiled. Trust us. We'll get pregnant soon. Really? That's great. Faye, you should work hard. When you get pregnant, I'll immediately buy a school district house in Jing'an District, Shanghai, to prepare for the child's schooling. Thank you, Dad. I smiled and echoed. But I felt rather uncomfortable in my heart. I know that school district houses in Shanghai are not cheap, and many people can't afford them even after working hard for a lifetime. But I hate his tone. As if I'm just a tool for the Leo family to have children. I casually took a few bites of the dishes and then excused myself, saying that I wasn't feeling well and went upstairs to rest. When I passed the room at the stairway, I subconsciously stopped. This room wasn't locked today? Leo told me that this was the room where Leo's mother used to live. After Leo's mother died, this room was sealed off, and Leo's father didn't allow anyone to enter. I thought that there might be the memories of Leo's father and Leo's mother in the room. I respected their private lives. And in the past 3 years, I had never gone in. But today, as if bewitched, I walked to the door of the room and gently turned the doorknob. The moment the door was pushed open, I was so scared that my legs went weak. I covered my mouth and fell heavily to the ground. The room was clean and tidy. In the center of the room, however, there hung a strange plain white dress. I had seen that dress in Leo's mother's portrait. Next to the dress, there was a wooden bookshelf. On the bookshelf, there were neatly arranged rows of transparent glass bottles. The glass bottles were wiped clean, sprayed with perfume, and tied with delicate bows. But inside, there were actually all kinds of strange animal teeth. There were rabbit teeth, cat teeth, dog teeth, and some that I didn't recognize. These teeth were soaked in hydrogen peroxide and were well preserved. But I felt a tingling sensation on my scalp and was trembling all over. Suddenly, the words that Leo said to me while sitting on a bicycle 8 years ago came to my mind. It turned out that those weren't love words. They were a deadly poison. I endured my fear and hurriedly stepped forward, rummaging through the boxes and cabinets for something. There might be evidence of Leo's crimes in this room. As long as I found it, I could complete the plan more quickly. Just then, my arm accidentally bumped into the glass bottle in the center. The glass bottle fell down with a bang. I was so scared that I quickly reached out to support it. But behind that glass bottle, I saw an even more terrifying bottle. Inside, there were a row of tender teeth with the roots still attached and stained with blood. It was obvious at a glance that these teeth had been pulled out while the owner was still alive. There were the 3 characters, Leo, pasted on the bottle. I covered my mouth, filled with horror. I stood there in a daze. In a trance. I heard the sound of someone hurrying upstairs. And just as I was about to turn around, Leo's voice reached my ears. "Faye." I was so frightened that I quickly got up, tidied up my things, closed the door, and left the room. Just then, I caught a glimpse of Leo, who had just appeared. Then, let out a low sigh. Gritting my teeth, I deliberately snapped the heel of my high-heeled shoe and rolled down the stairs. "Faye." Leo quickly stepped forward to support me. I shook my dazed head from the impact, hugged my scraped knee, and said with tears in my eyes, "Honey, I'm okay. I twisted my ankle and fell when I was going upstairs just now. I didn't expect that I accidentally fell down the stairs again. It hurts so much. Why are you so careless?" Leo smiled helplessly, but his eyes kept staring at that unlocked room. "Honey, my knee hurts so much." "Okay. I'll put some medicine on it for you. Be more careful next time." Only then did Leo take his eyes back, carried me to the living room, and helped me apply the medicine. I endured the pain and sat on the sofa, looking at my kind-faced father-in-law and gentle and considerate husband in front of me. I was extremely scared, and tears couldn't stop streaming down my face. I met Aunt Lynn again 3 days later. Aunt Lynn is an old nanny of Leo's family. She has worked for the Leo family for more than 10 years. When I first got married to Leo, she came to take care of me in our new home for a while. But not long after, Leo fired her. And I didn't know the reason. A month ago, while Leo was on a business trip, she came to see me. At that time, I had just found out that I was pregnant and was full of joy, wanting to wait for Leo to come back from his business trip and give him a surprise. But Aunt Lynn suddenly came. She took out a sealed plastic bag, and inside was a tooth stained with blood. "Faye, tedding fulfill wide session. This is the tooth of my own niece, Dawn. It was ripped out of the corpse alive. I found it in this house. And there are Leo's fingerprints on it. Your husband, Leo, is a murderer." "Aunt Lynn, are you crazy? My husband is the best dentist in Shanghai. How could he be a murderer? Do you have any evidence?" "If I had evidence, I wouldn't have waited until today. Faye, I've gotten along with you and think you're a nice person. So I chose to remind you," Aunt Lynn said with a bitter smile. "I saw you in the obstetrics and gynecology department yesterday. You're pregnant with Leo's child. Right? I'm telling you. You can't keep this child. Abort it quickly. The whole Leo family is full of perverts." "You're talking nonsense. My husband can't be a pervert." I shook my head in a hurry, unable to believe it was true. But in my mind, Sharon, who had died strangely, suddenly came to my mind. After seeing Aunt Lynn off, I was very uneasy. So I secretly went to the hospital to check Leo's duty information. To my shock, on the night Sharon died, Leo wasn't on duty. The nurses all said he wasn't in the hospital. But he clearly told me that he was working the night shift that night. I was so scared that I checked Leo's travel records and found that he had indeed left Shanghai that night, and the direction he went was Sharon's hometown. After learning this information, I hid in the bathroom and cried all night. After thinking it over and over again, I made that decision. I didn't tell Leo that I was pregnant. Under the pretext of traveling, I flew to Chengdu and asked Sunny to secretly perform that surgery. The game between me and Leo officially began. At the moment, I sat in the coffee shop, took a sip of the coffee in the cup, suppressed these memories, and looking at Aunt Lynn in front of me, I said, "Aunt Lynn, do you know how Leo's mother died back then?" Hearing my words, Aunt Lynn was in a trance for a long time before she said with a bitter smile, "Faye, having fulfilled ride session. You finally believe what I said." "Yes, having fulfilled ride session. Tell me everything you know." People in the Leo family all said that Leo's mother died of an illness. It was said to be cancer too. But now I don't dare to believe that anymore. Sure enough, Aunt Lynn let out a long sigh and said, "Leo's mother did have cancer back then. It was breast cancer. At that time, the medical technology wasn't as developed as it is now. It was very difficult to cure this kind of cancer. Leo's mother lay in bed, suffering every day. On Leo's 13th birthday, Leo's father added sleeping pills to his juice. Then he went to Leo's mother's room and personally injected sodium cyanide, which could cause euthanasia, into Leo's mother. After killing Leo's mother, he took out the tools and started pulling out her teeth. Unexpectedly, Leo didn't drink that cup of juice and hid at the door and saw the whole process. When Leo's father found out, he was furious. To punish Leo, he locked Leo in the basement and pulled out his teeth alive. What? I covered my mouth and looked at Aunt Lynn in disbelief. Later, Leo's father put dentures in for Leo and soothed him. But after that day, Leo became taciturn, and his personality became more and more gloomy. Later, he went to medical school and began to be crazy about the teeth of animals. He actually killed those animals in order to collect their teeth, and then pulled out the animal teeth alive and put them in glass bottles. You know the rest of the story. Thinking of that scene in the old house of the Leo family, I covered my mouth and almost vomited. Aunt Lynn grabbed my hand and continued. "Faye, having fulfilled wide session. I know you love Leo very much. But such a person isn't worthy of your love. Divorce him quickly. If you continue like this, you'll be the next one to die." I shook my head with a bitter smile, feeling very stuffy in my heart. It's too late to get a divorce now. I know Leo too well. He seems gentle on the surface, but he's sinister and ruthless inside. If I divorce him now, he will definitely not let me go. So, I can only take a desperate gamble. In the next few days, I have been observing the movements of Luna and Leo. Luna has been posting more frequently on her social media. The photos she took with Leo have become more and more excessive. Today, having fulfilled my obsession, she actually posted a photo of Leo's back, blatantly declaring war on me. If I pretend not to see it anymore, it will seem deliberate. When Leo came back at night, I lay on the bed with a pale face and refused to say a word. Leo walked up to me, gently touched my forehead, and asked softly, "Faye, having fulfilled ride session. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Honey, where have you been? You came back so late." I bit my lower lip and stared at him, my eyes full of sadness. He was stunned for a moment and then smiled, saying, "I went out for dinner with a friend. She was drunk, so I came back a bit late." "You went out with Luna, right? You seem to be getting very close to her recently." Leo was stunned for a moment, reached out to hug me, and said tenderly, "Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Don't misunderstand. My concern for Luna is just that of an ordinary doctor for a cancer patient. I didn't choose her 8 years ago, and I won't choose her now. Besides, she won't live for long. Don't worry. I love you. And it's you who has been by my side for 3 years. As long as you give birth to a child for me obediently, I will love you for the rest of my life." He coaxed me in the gentlest tone, but I felt my scalp go numb, and all the pores on my body stood up. I leaned against his arms, smelled the perfume on him that didn't belong to him, nodded obediently, but my eyes gradually dimmed. I went through all of Luna's social media accounts and found that she had registered a small Weibo account, which recorded her daily life with Leo. She said that next Sunday is her birthday, and she wants Leo to hold a birthday party for her at home. She originally thought this request was too excessive. After all, Leo is a married man. But unexpectedly, having fulfilled my obsession, Leo actually agreed. Next. Leo will probably send me away. Right? Sure enough. Leo gently rubbed my hair and smiled. Saying, Faye, honey fulfill right say. I think you've been under too much pressure recently. How about this? I'd booked a trip around Shanghai for you. Go out and have fun on the weekend to relax. I was stunned for a moment and then nodded with a smile. Okay. Thank you. Honey. Before going out on the weekend, I installed the pre-purchased pinhole cameras in the garden, living room, and bedroom. I didn't go out until I was sure Leo didn't notice. Leo's arrangements were very thoughtful. Every item was something I liked. But I played absently. On Sunday night, after participating in the activities, I took a shower early and lay in bed, turning on the cameras at home. Luna's birthday party had already started. Leo didn't prepare much for her. He just simply ordered a Western food takeout, lit the aromatherapy candles, and had dinner with her. In the picture, Luna raised her wine glass to Leo, squinting her tipsy eyes at him. Leo, thank you for fulfilling my request and letting me celebrate my birthday at your home. I really like your home. The roses in the garden are so beautiful. Okay. Leo broke free from her by pretending to pour wine. But there was a smile on her face. Leo. You know. I haven't gotten married or had a boyfriend in these 3 years. I've never been able to forget you. I'm really happy to meet you again now. As she spoke, she deliberately spilled the red wine in her wine glass on her dress. Leo, edista. I'm sorry. I'm so clumsy. I've soiled my dress. Can I use the bathroom? Okay. Luna smiled triumphantly and walked into the bedroom. I switched the camera to the bedroom. When I saw what was happening inside, I felt so disgusted that I almost vomited. Luna actually opened my wardrobe, found my pajamas, put them on herself, and also used my lipstick and cosmetics randomly. I was so angry that my face turned green, but my phone rang inappropriately. Seeing Leo's name on the screen, I glanced at the picture in the living room and picked up the phone, pretending to be calm. Faye, heading fulfilled where I say. How was your day today? Leo stood in front of the base where I installed the camera, and his handsome face was magnified. I was a bit nervous and held my breath. I had a great time. Thank you for the arrangements. Honey. Okay. As long as you're happy. Have a good sleep tonight. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. Leo played with the vase in front of him. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed, and he lowered his voice. Faye, honey fulfill ride session. Did you move the vase at home? The angle of the vase is a bit off. As he spoke, he bent down and started adjusting the vase. I was so scared that my body shook, and cold sweat broke out. Leo is a detail-oriented person. I didn't expect that despite my careful arrangements, he still found something wrong. If this goes on, I will be exposed sooner or later. I squeezed my phone tightly. The moment his finger was about to touch the camera, I quickly said, Honey, I seem to have forgotten to take in the clothes I dried on the balcony. Please go and take them in for me. It seems like it's going to rain tonight. Okay. Perhaps thinking that Luna would come out soon, Leo didn't think too much about it. After giving me a few instructions, he hung up the phone and turned to walk towards the balcony. I held the phone that had been hung up and slumped to the ground, heaving a sigh of relief. At this moment, in the living room, Luna came out of the room, wearing my pajamas and posing kaphavisly. Leo was taken aback for a moment, and a trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes. But taking advantage of her drunkenness, she fell into Leo's arms, hooked his neck, and kissed his lips. Leo, Evolution. I'm going to die soon. Before I die, I want to give myself to you. I love you. Leo curved his lips, didn't push her away, and directly pushed her down onto the sofa, getting entangled with her. I clenched my fist and stared at the adulterous couple entangled on the screen. I gritted my teeth in anger and felt like I was about to suffocate. But just when the two of them were inseparable, Leo suddenly took out a slender syringe and deftly inserted it into Luna's neck. Luna let out a roar, widened her eyes, and looked at Leo with an incredulous expression on her face. Leo. You let out a low sigh. You. Leo smiled gently. After injecting all the liquid in the syringe, he picked up the clothes scattered on the ground, gently covered her with them, and smiled. Luna, go to sleep. Have a good sleep. And your pain will be over. You let out a low sigh. You actually. Luna choked up. Before she could finish her words, she slowly closed her eyes. Leo smiled contentedly, took out his tools for making teeth, pried open Luna's mouth, pulled out her canine tooth, then kissed the tooth, cleaned it, buried it under the roses, and then dragged Luna's body out. I watched the screen of the camera in horror throughout the whole process, and cold sweat kept dripping down. The next day, a message came in the classmate group saying that Luna had died. She couldn't endure the pain of cancer and injected euthanasia drugs last night, and died peacefully at home. The classmates were all expressing their regret and discussing it. I hurriedly dropped my phone, ran to the living room, took down the camera I had installed before, tidied up the vase, and then backed up the surveillance video from last night, preparing to go to the police station to report the case. Just then, let out a low sigh. The door was gently pushed open, and Leo came back. I was so scared that I shrank back and stared at him with a trembling voice. Honey, didn't you go to the hospital? Why are you back? I suddenly remembered that I forgot to bring something and came back to get it. Leo's gaze swept over the vase. Sensing something was wrong, his eyes suddenly turned cold. Faye, having fulfilled my obsession, you've indeed touched the vase. I just wanted to change the flowers. This vase has dried flowers in it. What are you changing them for? Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Are you hiding something from me? He stepped closer to me step by step. His eyes were terrifyingly cold. I was so scared that I let out a roar, pushed him away, and turned to run. But he grabbed my hand, threw me heavily to the ground, and sneered, Faye, you are indeed hiding something from me. Don't think I don't know what you've been doing behind my back. Leo. You murderer. Let me go. Murderer? Leo smiled wickedly. Faye, having fulfilled where I'd sigh. You actually dared to investigate your husband? As soon as the words fell, my neck was tightly choked. Leo took out a syringe exactly the same as the one from last night and slowly approached me. I originally planned to kill you while you were giving birth after you got pregnant and had a baby. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being ruthless. I stared at him with wide eyes, and big tears streamed down my face. I never dreamed that the man I had loved deeply for 8 years, who pretended to love me, married me, and doted on me, actually just wanted to kill me. So Leo, what exactly did you make me drink to make me pregnant? Thinking of that dark red medicinal liquid, I fought back the nausea and asked. I told you. It's a medicine that helps you get pregnant. I made it for you with my own hands. I just added some blood, so the color looks a bit strange. What kind of blood? I asked with a shocked expression on my face. Remember the baby at Auntie's house? Leo pinched my chin and smiled. The baby at Auntie's house had very beautiful teeth, so when he was hospitalized due to illness, I specifically drew his blood and added it to your tonic. This way, our future baby can also have beautiful teeth. Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. Look, how considerate I am. What? I pushed Leo away and vomited directly. Leo. You pervert. Faye, having fulfilled my obsession. You've always been asking me why I chose you, right? But Leo seemed not to have heard my words and was lost in memories. Remember our first meeting? I vaguely remembered that in that class, the teacher called me up to the stage and asked me to be a model, and let all the medical students observe my teeth. Could it be that Leo had his eyes on me at that time? He stroked my face and smiled sinisterly. Faye, do you know? A person's life is very short. The only things that can be preserved for a lifetime are hair and teeth, and a person's teeth are the most beautiful at the age of 26. Since you love me so much, leave your most beautiful thing to me. Leo, that was Faye. You bastard. No wonder after I celebrated my 25th birthday, he desperately forced me to have a baby. He originally wanted to kill me during childbirth so that he could pull out my teeth because I didn't have cancer. Faye, it's too late for you to realize this now. He laughed arrogantly. raised the syringe in his hand high, and stabbed it towards my neck fiercely. Ah! Faye. 20. When the clock on the wall pointed to 845, Sue broke in with the police. The police rushed forward directly, snatched the syringe from Leo's hand, pinned him to the ground, and detained him. He was pressed hard to the ground, looking at me with bloodshot eyes. The police rushed into the room and the garden and began to search for evidence of Leo's crimes. I tidied up my messy long hair, got up from the ground, and said to the police who had detained Leo, "Officer, can I have a word with Leo alone?" The police handcuffed Leo and pushed him in front of me. Leo didn't have his former high spirits now. There was a bit of mockery and vicissitudes on his face. "Faye, I didn't fulfill my incision. You've known all these things for a long time?" "Yeah. If I didn't plan ahead, how could I make you fall into the trap?" I rubbed my arm that was pinched red by him and smiled with my eyes lowered. "Faye, hadn't fulfilled my say. It seems that I've underestimated you all these years." I sneered, leaned closer to him, and whispered next to his ear bone, "Leo, do you know? You like to align the patterns of the vase with the diagonal corner of the second row of tiles on the wall when you place it. It takes you 5 minutes and 27 seconds to return home from the parking lot. I know you better than you can imagine." "What?" Leo was stunned, and there was a bit more shock in his eyes than ever before when he looked at me. But I smiled even more triumphantly, got even closer to him, and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, Oh, by the way, there's one more thing I think you should know. Actually, having fulfilled my ancestral, Luna didn't have cancer at all." "What?" "Faye. You bitch. You actually dared to frame me." Leo pounced on me like a madman, yelling hysterically. I left safely under the protection of the police. The moment I turned my head, I smiled, and my smile was even brighter than the roses in the whole garden.